There is nothing worse than untapped potentials. If you know that you're made for more, this is the place. I know that every successful person I've ever met has one thing in common. They do not let themselves fall victim to their circumstances. They figure out a way to rise above it. So join me on this journey where I help you to be better, do better, and have better in life and in business. If you're feeling stuck and you're needing some practical tools, some hope to get you to that better life, this is definitely the place for you. Hey everybody, welcome to the Unstuck podcast. Oh my gosh, you guys, today you are in for a treat because I am literally interviewing a certified badass. Am I right, Laura? Right? That's like, it's so much fun because you guys, she's so stinking inspirational, and her military background has literally coined her as this amazing certified badass. And so Laura, welcome to the Unstuck podcast. I cannot wait for everybody to get a chance to hear from you, be inspired by you, and learn from you today. So welcome.
Hey, Lachelle, I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. Okay, girlfriend. So tell us a little bit more about you, other than, the brief introduction that I gave you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, how you're showing up in the world, who you're serving, what you're most proud of, all the things.
All the things. Okay, I'm just going to dive in then.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a mom of 3, and that makes me very proud. And not just for being a mom, but what I've been able to do with my role of being a mother. So my kids know 4 languages, and they've traveled the country, and they've served in several different communities. And so that makes me super proud. And what I do right now is I help women. So I do elite conscious women, and that's really to show up and serve women that they want to be in their God-given purpose, and they want to step up, and they want to serve in a powerful way. And they want to leave an impact. They want to build a legacy, and they're thinking about generational impact, generational legacy, generational wealth. So that way they can be truly who they came here to be, and other people get to benefit. So they're resourceful, and they bring people in, and they build community around them. So it's really a community of high-level mentorship where we get to serve women that are leaders, because women leaders, they need to be poured back into, and they need to be refreshed, and they need to be held. So that's what I'm doing today. With my work, and I'm getting involved in a lot of local facilities and churches. And this year has just been beautiful how it's just been expanding and growing, and so many people are becoming a part of it. And I had this, before I even started coaching, I had this vision of that. Really, I was just working on the business, not in the business. And I had a bunch of other coaches that I taught my methodology to, and they did it. And this year it's happening. People are coming on board, and people are just so in tune with what Elite Conscious Women is that it's just like, I'm asking, people are saying yes. Like, it's just such an easy conversation to have. I'm like, yes, like, that's a really good feeling.
I love it. And that's why we connected so much when we met, because your mission is my mission. And I love the fact that we have that in common, right? Like, if I could, at the end of my life, be the well done, good and faithful servant who helped other people fulfill their God-given journey, their purpose of why they're here, and I could be one small part of that, like, I know that I've done my job, right? And right before our conversation, I did a little prayer, and I said, okay, Lord, please just let Laura and I's conversation be your words. Let us be your vessel to help people, inspire people. And I have no doubt that that's what we're going to do today. And so thank you. And I also think that you guys listen to this, and she's accomplishing all of this and being a mom. And I remember that hearing Mother Teresa say that if you want to change the world, it starts at home. Right. Yes. And that's what we're doing. And I think that sometimes when you're talking about elite and women and leaders, that was me. I'm an overachiever. I love to do all the things. And then sometimes our family can accidentally get put into the back burner without us even realizing it, slowly slipping away. And I think that it's so important, right, that we remember that we can make a really big difference at home too. And so make sure that they don't get our sloppy leftovers, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If you don't mind me saying something about that, like, I love what you just said, because a lot of women do struggle with that. And I created this formula, basically. It's called What's Your Pill? And it's purpose, impact, legacy. And it's really identifying what that is. And it's so cool because before COVID, I was doing a lot of in-person workshops. And, I'd be teaching this formula of like how to integrate your family into what your purpose really is, and understanding that, the family that you do have and the family you create really is a part of your, your top priorities, and learning like, what do I actually want to have on my plate? And everything going on in your life has a purpose and a place, just like, how everything behind you is so beautifully, purposefully placed, it's all got a place for it. And it would be cool because I'd be teaching that, and right at that part of how to integrate your family so that way your family doesn't end up on the back burner. Nothing goes, it's just always front of mind. My kids would always come in, and it's like start serving like little waters to everybody in the audience. It was so cool. But really like being intentional and deliberate and keeping everything front of mind is a beautiful way to make sure that things that are very important don't go on the back burner. And it really just is a practice. It's having that formula, it's having that practice. And then, everything else that doesn't matter is what ends up on the back burner, which is where it should be.
Right. Okay. So we are going to dive into that PIL acronym in very, very soon. But I had to ask you, Laura, because I think that sometimes when people come on a show like this and they hear you and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, so this chick is like Pinterest worthy, kids speaking all these languages and they're doing all this stuff and her life is so perfect. I got to know though, like, has it always been that perfect? Have things always been in, the place that they are? Tell me a little bit about you and who you have had to become in order to be the person that you are today?
I love that question, Lachelle. It's really awesome. So actually, my struggles started as a child. I had a really traumatic childhood. I mean, social workers, domestic abuse calls, police officers at my house, growing up in that environment and, feeling like at any moment my whole world could just be thrown upside down. And I got into drugs and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it really looked like I was just going to be a sad statistic.
Right.
But I realized though that, and I'm so grateful that I realized this because this is where I turned my life around, was that if I want to live a different life, if I want to be happy, if I want anything to be different, I have to be different than the people that are around me. And this is why I'm so, I teach this today so much, because people in the personal development industry say that your environment is stronger than your willpower. But as a child, you cannot change. You literally don't have the power to change the people around you. You can't change where you live. And so as a child, I had to learn, how do I overcome my environment? How do I become the strongest point in my life? And that's what changed everything. So everything that I've ever had, I've had to work very, very hard for. And I still have to work very, very hard for what it is that I have. Yes, I've tapped into that ease and that flow. And I'm like, whoa, this crazy opportunity just fell in my lap. But these things fall in my lap because I've worked so hard and I've been so consistent and I've been really focused. So really, that's why I take so much pride in everything that I've been able to accomplish. And when I do hit those valley moments, that's what keeps me going, because I know what I've already gone through. I know what I'm working towards. And I just remind myself that if I can just stand up at the end of the day and say to somebody else, look at that dark tunnel that I just came through. It was dark. It was quiet. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know how long it was going to take for me to get out of this, but I didn't give up and I kept going. That gives hope to other people, and it helps other people believe in themselves. So that at the end of the day, I still have struggles. I still have trials. I still have things that come up that I have to deal with, but it's learning the tools, how to deal with them fast, how to deal with them effectively, and getting myself through it so that way, okay, that tunnel doesn't have to be so long. It doesn't have to be so dark. It doesn't have to be so lonely. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that that's one of the things that I think is a fallacy, right? That people think that, okay, well, she went through a hard childhood, but now she's got it all figured out. And now her life just goes swimmingly well. And in reality, right, we still have struggles. We still have things that throw us, a curveball. We still have blocks that we're trying to overcome. But the difference is that when you continue to grow and make yourself better, like you said, those tunnels aren't as long. You're not there as long. It's not as lonely. You have the tools that you need to get through it. And so it's not that you are immune to hardships. It's that you have a better capacity, I guess, to deal with them and overcome them as they come. Right?
Yeah. Because there's some really incredible tools and strategies and principles that people can learn that, I mean, aren't really well known in the industry. Like when I was in the Marine Corps, I looked at how am I with people from all over the world with all different kinds of belief systems and backgrounds and different ages and different environments, but yet they all walk out thinking, walking, talking the same. How do you do that? And so I became obsessed with that. And how do I not change my habits in 21 days or 30 days, but how do I change my habits in a day? How do I literally become that next version of myself in a day? And it's just really incredible. And I love teaching that. Like radical transformation can happen incredibly fast. It'll knock your socks off. And it really just is, do you really have what it takes to do it? Do you have that heart and that passion and that drive to really do what it takes? And that really is like just having a zest for life and having a zest for growth and having a zest to, just be not average, not standard, strive for excellence. And when we talk about God-given purpose and kingdom building, all the things, I mean, God and Jesus, everything that those stories stand for is striving for excellence, setting an example. Right. And look at the people that was used throughout biblical stories. I mean, come on, you wouldn't handpick those people yourself.
No, I know. And then that's the thing, right? Like we both agree that we want to be better, right? We want to do better. We want to have better in life. And so as an example, right, all of those biblical stories had somebody that was the underdog, the person who couldn't speak very well, the person who, had a shady past, all of the things, right, that we all can relate to, but they were able to be made better.
And that's the cool part, is because everybody has the excuse of, well, they could do it because they had a silver spoon in the mouth. Well, they could do it because they were set up for it. They could do it because it was easy. So that's the cool part, is when you're like, no, actually, they had all the odds against them. And so it's just, like I said, having that zest and being excited about it. Like I remember, when I was choosing what branch I was going to go into, and I found out that, I was told, hey, the Marine Corps is the hardest. I said, sign me up. Like, hello, if it's the best of the best, then that's what I'm going to do. And, the Crucible, it's a 54-hour, moment of truth, basically. And, you got to get excited for things like that. So think about, like, what's my crucible in my life right now? What am I trying to tackle? And just get hungry for, like, really tackling that and identifying, what does that mean about me once I've accomplished this? Who do I have to become?
I have to know, Laura, because this is something that's really fascinated me for a really long time. And one of the reasons I love having conversations like this is I want to know, when you were that little girl in the environment in which you were, subjected to things that no child should be subjected to, were you always like this, or did you have something happen to make it kind of come alive for you? Or tell me a little bit about who you were then and help me understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been passionate. I've always had this huge heart. I've always been super kind-hearted and generous. I've always just been that little girl. Yeah. But a lot of the things that I went through turned me into a very quiet, insecure, shy girl, a very angry girl, just angry at the world, angry at people. And so essentially who I've always been, yes, I've always been so passionate, so compassionate, so kind. But the experiences that I went through, really, I would say, like, hardened me and toughened me. And I had a lot of hatred in my heart. And when I realized that the reason I felt like I hated myself wasn't because I was a bad person. It was actually because I was just treated that way. And I realized, okay, this hatred isn't really mine. It's not mine. And this misery really isn't mine. And if I do things differently than how they do things, then I can have a different life. But I got to be a different way. And that's when it really started shifting for me. That's when, and I would have friends at school asking me, like, how are you so happy? Like, I was so full of joy. I was like just this little sunshine, like, all the time, because I literally, like, nothing affected me. Like, my parents went through a terrible divorce when I was 17. And, like, I was just like, I got control over my central operating system, like my thoughts and my feelings and my words and my actions. I was completely and totally in control, and my environment didn't affect me unless I let it. So I really just learned, how do I become the chief of this operation system and everything else around me bows to me? bows to what I want. And so it really is such a powerful place to be in, where I get to decide, like, I'm just observing, like, what do I think about that? How do I think I want to respond? Am I going to pay attention to it? Like, really just observing and deciding, observing and deciding. And it's really beautiful to step into that, because we were designed to be that way. We were actually designed to observe and decide, not to be victim to, which I love how you said that in the intro, like not being victims to it, because that's exactly what it is. And everybody's just walking around like, oh my God, with all these excuses. But we've also, society's been trained that those excuses are actually valid. But I think at the core of all of us, we know it's not true.
Right. And that's literally one of the things that I've found in all of these conversations, in books, in podcasts, all of the things, is that successful people choose to rise above their circumstances. Right. And I think that there's people who are listening to this and they're like, yeah, but I had this terrible childhood. Yep. So did Laura. Right. Oh, but you don't understand.
I haven't even scratched the surface of it.
Yeah. Right. And like, I had this terrible job. Like, my environment around me is terrible. Again, you can choose to rise above it. You can choose to be the CEO of your central operating system. I love that, Laura, so stinking much. Okay, you guys, I cannot wait to get into the rest of the conversation with Laura. I want to know, okay, so keep this in your mind, girlfriend. We want to know more about the pill formula. And I want to know more about, you said that you can literally use your military background to figure out how you can change yourself like today, instead of, creating the habits over 21 days and stuff. I want to dive into that so much. Is that something you're willing to talk to us about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay! Okay, cool. So you guys, I'm going to take a brief moment. I'm going to tell you all about this super, super exciting program that I have planned for you. If you are ready to completely crush and scale your business, but you're not ready to give up all of the passions that you have to spend time with your family, you're going to want to listen to this. And we're going to be back with Laura here in just a second. Hey, lachellewieme here, and I got to ask you, are you feeling like you're always on your freaking phone and you're trying to run your business, your family's complaining about you always being on your phone, you feel like you're winging it constantly, and all you want to do is have a strategy that lets you be 100% authentic, and you are literally attracting the right people to you? Oh my goodness, that was me too. And I had to figure out a system that would make that work. And I totally nailed it. I have a program all designed to help you do that too, including a chance to spend the entire day with me so I can help you write copy that attracts people, and you will literally be done for an entire year. If that sounds like it's something that you need, we totally need to talk. Go ahead and click this link and let's get started. Okay, you guys, Laura, let's get started, girlfriend. I want you to start taking us down the path of how can I start today? Maybe I'm feeling like a victim right now, today. How can I move from where I am right now to where I want to be? Give us your best stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing is people have to, if they're in victim mindset, they have to take responsibility and ownership. If you're blaming somebody else, you're giving the control to somebody else. So as soon as you're willing to step out of that, that's when you're in control. And then you just decide, what is it that I want to have? You're having clarity over how do I want to feel? And this is really amazing stuff here. So I can make myself feel any way I want with no ifs, ands, or buts. Like if I want to feel sad, I can sit here and make myself feel sad. If I want to make myself feel happy, I can make myself feel happy. And, there's a lot of talk around, mindset is everything. But in reality, it's not, because, what comes out of your mouth, how you're thinking. And people can walk around talking positive stuff all day, but as soon as something happens to them, you realize their mindset might have seemed right and the way they talked might have seemed right, but holy cannoli, they fall apart and they can't handle things. So it really falls back down into your identity. Who do you identify yourself to be? And so I'm just going to give a really quick example here. So when I was in criminal justice when I was in high school, and I thought I was going to go to law school. But one day it was either the Army or the National Guard. Somebody came in with boots and utes, and they were drilling us, and we were working out and exercising. I was like, whoa, that was incredible. I loved it. And I was already kind of like a fitness junkie anyway. But I was like, that was really cool. I loved it. And I told the guidance counselor, I was like, hey, I want to talk to your recruiter. And he's like, that's really stupid. But he set me up with one anyway. Here comes in this guy in these dress blues, you know, like really fancy uniform. And I'm thinking to myself, like, who is this? Because this is not who I want to talk to. And as he's talking to me and he's telling me about what the Marine Corps stands for, the values. Okay, and I talk about VMPs all the time, your values, your morals, and your principles. What do you stand for? Like, what are you, like, get honest with yourself. What are you really willing to die for? And if you're not willing to die for anything yet, figure out what you're willing to die for. Because that's what's going to get you up in the morning and change who you are as a person. If you can identify the goal with who you are, you like the essence of who you are, and you're willing to stand up and fight for that and to die for that, then you will not be able to stop yourself from doing the things that get you to it. So what happened was, he said, you know, the Marine Corps is the hardest, it's the longest, it's got the toughest training, it's the best of the best, blah, blah, blah. We stand for this. And I'm like, sign me up. This is it. And I would say to everybody, like, if you met me when I was 17 years old, the first thing you knew about me was like, I'm going to be a Marine. I'm going to be a Marine. And my grandmother told me when she's like, Laura, why don't you tell people that you want to be a Marine or you'd like to, or you're going to try to? And I was like, what? It didn't make sense to me. I was like, why would I do that? And she's like, well, it's really hard. So what if you fail? And it didn't even, like, just the wires were not connecting in my brain like that, because I identified with what it meant, like what it meant to become a Marine. And I've always had a heart of service, always. I've always been patriotic to my country. So, but specifically what the Marine Corps stood for: honor, courage, commitment, leadership. Like, it was just my heart. I felt it in my blood and my cells. I felt like my bones are made up of this. And so all of the challenges that I came across trying to join, you know, it didn't matter. Like, when you identify with who it is you want to become, when you identify with your goal, it's like a magnet. Like, you won't stop thinking about it. You will become obsessed. You know, and I hear this a lot. People say you have to become obsessed. No, you don't have to become obsessed. You have to find that thing that just resonates with the cells in your body, that you're like, that is who I am. And you can't stop it. Nothing that will ever come up in your life can ever take you off that path, because you'll just be addicted to the process.
How do you find that? For the people who haven't found that yet, how do they find that?
That's a great question. You know, I feel like my personal experience, like the Marine Corps found me, because I remember I was like, who is this guy in these fancy blue uniform, you know? Yeah. And then it's just like, it chases you down. So, but I've done other things. Like, you know, being a mother, you know, a lot of moms that I talk with have like, oh, how do you juggle it all? How do you balance it all? And, you know, I look at like what I do with my kids, and it's like, look, if I can do all these things with my kids, run a business, run a team, be involved in my community, have great, healthy relationships, be close with my family, my friends, if I can do all these things, and so can you. But it really just is about, like, I'm trying to answer your question. So when I became a mother, I was always focused on education, because I had an identity around what I thought mothers should be. They should be teaching their children and setting them up for more success. As I started doing that more, and I saw how set apart my children were from other children, and people would talk about it all the time, like, how, you know, your kids are so well behaved and so well mannered, and so, you know, but it was so intentional. And I feel like once I poured into them and I could see the vision of what am I actually doing? And it's not just for my kids, but it's like, I'm honestly really thinking about the people my kids are going to affect. That's how my brain works. I'm thinking about, I have 3 children. They're going to come across hundreds, thousands, possibly millions of people throughout their lifetimes. And I'm serving those people right now by serving my children. Yes. And so it wasn't something that, so like with the Marine Corps, I really felt like that came to me. And then with motherhood, I found like I discovered that. I found that. So if there's something that you're passionate about, if there's something that, this is the problem, Michelle. Women don't honor their boundaries. There's something so powerful with this, because once you identify, what are my standards? Right. What do I admire? Find what you admire. Let me go back to I admire, you know, good values, morals, and principles. I admire integrity. I admire someone who's like disciplined. I admire honor, courage, commitment. I admire those traits. I respect those traits. So I'm going to go after what that looks like. And if you understand what your standards are, and then you set boundaries up around those, because this is the problem. They don't have those boundaries set, and someone treats them a certain way, or they have a relationship that's not very fulfilling, or they're not doing what they want to do in their job, or whatever. Maybe they don't have the body that they want. That right there is why they don't have that zest and that passion, because they're not even honoring their own boundaries. And if you're not honoring your boundaries, then no one else is honoring your boundaries either. So I really think that like identifying what it is that the essence of who you are, I mean, it'll wake you up. Oh my gosh. You'll be able to count. I'm counting the cells in my body right now. Like they're waking up and saying hello to me. Like, oh my gosh.
That's how I feel when I'm in this space. Yeah.
And you're setting your standards and those boundaries, and like what is it that I admire, and how can I be that person?
Yeah.
Because for me, and I don't mean this in a way of arrogance, but I look at who I am and the things that I do, and I'm like, wow, I really admire that woman. Like from an observation standpoint, I'm like, wow, I really admire who that woman is as a friend and a daughter and a sister and a mother and a business owner. And, it's just, be that person that you admire. Like it's really just adopting those traits and becoming that person. So if you haven't found it yet, it's definitely how you can start getting there.
And one of the things that you mentioned earlier, and I kind of brought the conversation around, but I want to bring it back, is, you said you find who that person is, and that's going to help you to unlock or change yourself like in a day, right? What other things do you recommend people to embrace if they are really wanting to get unstuck from where they are to where they want to be?
Embrace? Yeah, they could embrace self-control and self-discipline. Self-discipline is the new sexy. I've been saying this for a while. Like it's so sexy. It's juicy. It's incredible. It's sexy. That's a good example. Like it's just everything. It's everything. And so I actually start my day. I take a cold shower every morning, and it's great to just be like, I'm going to do what's necessary to just have control of what I can have control over. And again, like we were talking about, that's my operating system. And there's a communication process that goes between the mind and the body. Like the body actually has its own language. It has its own communication system. And so many people have fallen. There's a saying that in the Marine Corps, like the body is a slave to the mind. And it should be that way, because if you're trying to diet or get healthier and you're like, okay, I'm not going to eat donuts this week. And then you go into the office and you're like, oh, they bought donuts. Like what happens? There's a conversation happening. It's not a conversation between your minds. It's a conversation between your body and your mind. And if you don't train and tame your body, then it's going to rule you instead of your mind. So people really think it's this mindset game, but it really is understanding your whole system, like the whole big picture, and knowing the roles of the different pieces, and then being able to be in control of all of that as the observer, because we can observe our minds as well. So we aren't really the mindset. So I hope that answered your question. I know that was kind of like...
No, I love it. And so what I think discipline is sexy too. And you and I, we need to continue to have conversations, but that's one of the things that I have found that people really struggle with. The three things that I have found that people really struggle with is, number one, having a belief in themselves that they can actually have more. The second one is fear. And the third one is lack of discipline, or lack of motivation, which is lack of discipline.
It's because the parts of them that have overpowered their main source, because if you're feeling stuck, and I love that this is called the Unstuck podcast, like you're feeling stuck, obviously, if you feel like you don't believe in yourself enough to have what you want or to achieve what you want, or you don't have the willpower, like, oh my gosh. And I can't stand when people say willpower will only get you so far, because let's take a look at that for a second. Your willpower is your ability to exercise your free will. Every single person on this planet was given this by God. It is your God-given ability to exercise your free will. So what the hell do you mean you couldn't control yourself, or you couldn't get yourself to do X, Y, Z? They are literally stuck listening to, and it's really like your body that's having that communication back and forth saying, well, I don't like this, or I don't want this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, have you ever like gone to jump off something like off a bridge or a cliff or a rock, or just like to swim, or a diving board, even in school, like a diving board, right? Yeah. And you're scared, and you're like, and your mind is screaming like, jump, just do it, jump. But your body like literally physically stops you from doing it. Yes. So that's why I argue, what do you mean mindset is all you need to be successful? Right? Because your body can and will stop you. And I know it sounds so foreign because people aren't having this conversation, but if you're not physically doing the things that's going to get you what you want, you have a communication problem between your mind and your body.
Okay, so how do you fix that? You're
that's
like,
a good question. Oh my gosh, let's schedule another one. But it's really like, so you have to be able to catch when it's happening, because people think that they're like going back and forth between themselves. You cannot want two things that oppose each other at the same time. That's not rational. That doesn't make sense. So I think the first step is really understanding. There's a book called The Wisdom of Yourself by Dr. Bruce Lipton. So if anybody really wants to understand how to get total control over your own, being, read that book like 3 times.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. I got to see him speak at the John Maxwell, at my John Maxwell coaching thing once. And it's really fascinating. He's a very, very smart man. So that's so cool. And I haven't read it, so I need to. Okay. That's so cool. Yeah. All right. So read that book. Anything?
That book, because it gives you an understanding, like an epigenetic standpoint of how we operate as beings. And I think just society has gotten us to think of ourselves in such a vague way, like, oh, we just get up and go to work and take care of responsibility. But if we understand how we actually operate, like, and I'm a science geek, so talking about membranes and proteins and like all these things get me.
Me too.
If you understand, like, okay, so I need the manual, like, give me the manual. How does this work? You have to catch yourself, like, okay, my body's communicating this to me, and it's typically laziness. It's typically staying in your comfort zone. It's typically, because what happens, we have a physical reaction when we don't want to do something. Like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't feel like making these calls. I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like doing that. These are all physical things. And so a lot of people, I know the spiritual realm of things is really big, especially in business right now. And everyone's trying to like close their eyes and sit still for 12 hours and manifest things out of thin air.
Yeah.
Think about it. We are in the physical realm, are we not? Mm-hmm. So the quickest, fastest, easiest way is by working with the physical world. We're here in the physical realm for a reason. So I can sit and namaste and think and meditate all day. And sure, that will give me some benefits, but it'll only take me so far. And then people get frustrated, like, oh my God, like I spent 5 days, meditating in the Himalayas and I'm still not getting what I want. Well, you're probably not going to. So it's really understanding how can I show up physically? I mean, it's so easy to do that, but you must be in control of your body.
Okay, so let's just say that you are like, it's tomorrow morning right now, Laura, and you are in bed and it is so warm and it's so comfortable. And you're like, but I have a cold shower waiting for me with my name on it. So in real life, like, tell me how you get from point A to point B, like in real life.
Yeah, I think excitement and definitely discipline. Like I said, like, I think when people read things like the 5 a.m. club and they're like, oh, hey, if I wake up 5 a.m., I'm going to be great. And they wake up at 5 a.m. and they don't really know why they're up at 5 a.m. Do you think they're going to get up at 5 a.m. the next day?
No.
Probably not. So if I'm in a nice warm bed, I'm comfy and I'm cozy, I can actually take that, turn it into gratitude and jump right out of bed and get in a cold shower. Yeah. Like what happens is people go, oh, they actually turn it into a negative feeling, like, oh, I don't want to get out of my bed. But if I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, oh, my bed is so comfortable, I'm so warm, it feels great, I've got such a great life. You want to get up for that. You want to get up for it. Right? And like for me, like the first day I started taking cold showers, I was like, this sucks. And then I was like, embrace the suck, because I'm doing it for a reason. Like I want to do it. And you mentioned yourself being like that overachiever. I've always been super ambitious and driven like that as well. Yeah. So it's like, if I'm like, okay, It's super invigorating. It's great for my skin. It's great for my cells. I'm going to benefit from this. I identify myself with that so much that it doesn't sit right with me if I'm not doing what I've already identified as what's best for me. It just, it would eat me up all day. Like I'd be like, oh my God, it would drive me nuts. So I really think going back to identifying who you are with what you're doing. Because otherwise people have no idea what they're doing. They're like, okay, I got up at 5 a.m. I remember like I got this course from, you know, one of the gurus, and I was so excited because I'm like, ooh, this is like the best of the best, right? Yeah. And a lot of the things in there was like, oh, get up at 5 a.m. and work out. And I'm like, I was in the Marine Corps. I was up, you know, like way before 5 a.m., like doing 12 miles before breakfast. Like, so I was really looking for something that, you know, I found was challenging for me. And sometimes we just got to come up with that ourselves because you're not going to find it out there.
Yeah.
And that's actually,
that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And one of the things I want to talk about this real quick because you mentioned it and it stuck with me. So you said that you were in the Marine Corps and you were a young woman, but you noticed that people were coming in from all different walks of life. They were coming in from, you know, different social economic backgrounds, ethnicity, education levels, all of the things, but yet like things were transformed in a very short period of time. So tell me why do you think that happened? Like, tell me what
I love it.
Observed from that.
Yeah, I'm going to say it in a way that's beneficial to everybody watching.
Yeah.
That if you're doing something to create radical transformation, typically what people do is there's the option of doing the new thing, which is uncomfortable and people don't like.
Yeah.
Or they go back to doing what was comfortable. So I'm going to give it to you in a way that is super beneficial for you to take and use today, whoever's listening. You have two options. The option A is do the new things that gets you the new life, the new body, the new job, the new whatever it is that you want, which, hello, you're going to benefit from anyway. I mean, you want that, right?
Right.
Or the other option is something way worse. Like way worse. Like if you step out of line in boot camp, like there's like major consequences to that. Like, so doing this thing that sucks is way better than doing this thing that really sucks. So setting yourself up for that, like really taking responsibility for your own success is, I'm going to, one, identify with what it is that I'm trying to do, because that's going to make it so much easier, because I'm going to wake up that zest for what I'm trying to accomplish. And it's not going to be hard. It's not going to be a struggle because I'm going to be hungry for it. I'm going to be obsessed with it. But then also the other side of taking responsibility of it is setting up consequences. Like, it's actually better and less uncomfortable if I do this new thing than if I don't. And do something that, like, and everybody's different. Like, you know, everybody has different, what they think is different consequences or whatever. But set yourself up that way where there really is only one option then in your mind. Because then your mind goes, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do this new thing.
Is brilliant. And that brings me to one of my disciplines is that, you know, I do anesthesia for a living. And so I get a 15-minute coffee break in the morning. And I literally have 15 minutes from the time I leave my operating room to the time I come back. And I spend that time on my business. Now, is it, you know, what I want to do? No, but I would rather do it then than get home and my husband say, why are you on your phone all the time? Or my kids say, Mom, I want to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, nope, honey, I can't. I have to do work that I could have done during my 15 minutes at work, right? So that pain is worse than the 15 minutes of me just getting my head down and doing it and getting back to my operating room.
There you go. That's a great example.
So brilliant that you said that. Okay. So speaking of that, I want to transition to the last part of our conversation because I want to make sure that we've had a chance to talk about the mom thing because you mentioned the PIL acronym. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about that we haven't already talked about? Because I don't want to forget.
So I think I did say what it stood for. It's purpose, impact, legacy, long-term sustainability.
Okay. And is there anything that you want us to glean from that? Because I thought it was so great that you mentioned it. And I think that, you know, as parents, we have to remember, right, the impact that we are making today on our kids. So anything special that you want to bring up about that?
Yeah. I mean, it really ties into everything that I've said today about identity, boundaries, having your priorities set up straight. A lot of women say that, oh, how do you juggle it all? A lot of people are actually holding really tight, like clenching really tight to this idea of balance is not obtainable. But they just don't have the skill or the knowledge to actually create that in their lives. Because again, they're living in that victim mentality of it's up to everything else going on, and oh, life happens and blah, blah, blah. So it really is about identifying who you are, what you're accomplishing in your life, and then what's most important to you. And if I do something in my purpose part of my formula, I've intentionally designed it to where it positively impacts every other thing that I've already designated as a priority. And I'm going to give this as an example, especially for moms, because I think this is really important. So if I have identified that it's very important for me to take care of myself, and that it's very important for me to be the best version of myself, when I spend time in self-care, taking care of myself, whatever that looks like for me, I can now show up as my best self for my children, for my spouse, for my family, for my friends, for my business, for my team. But if I'm putting myself on the back burner because all these things going on in my life, nobody is getting the best version of you, honey. Like nobody is. So it really is about identifying what is the most important pieces in my life that have to be taken care of, and how, when I do that one thing, it benefits all the others. And when I do this one thing, it benefits all the, and I'm going to give an example. So being a mom, and I love how you said it starts with at home, because I take my kids out to fancy restaurants and people go, oh my, like people have bought us dessert and stuff, like your kids are so well behaved, I can't take my kids out, they'd be under the table right now. And it's because that's how they have to eat at home, at the house, at their table. And so I can take them out now worried about that. And what it's done though, is as I'm taking care of my kids, which is one of my pill formulas, one of my things that's super identified, I'm also benefiting, it's positively impacting my purpose. My purpose is to serve as many people as possible. So as I'm serving my children and I'm being a mother and I'm bonding with them and I'm taking care of them and I'm pouring into them, they are actually feeding my purpose and my legacy and my impact. It all ties together. And when you're living a life where literally everything ties together, it's super freeing, it's super powerful, it's empowering, it's incredible.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh my gosh, Laura, okay, so we definitely need to have another conversation. I could literally talk to you all day long, and just, it's really fun that we get to meet people from all over the world and connect in this way, and we get to bless people through our conversation. So is there anything else that we haven't talked about? I think we've covered like so much that I want to make sure that I've given you the last, opportunity to say anything else that you wanted to mention so that we can bless people that are listening.
Yeah, no, I think we covered a lot. I think there's a lot for people to digest with all of that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So if you guys are as excited for me to have another conversation with Laura, make sure that you mention that in the conversations, in the comments, in the reviews, because I think that it's so much fun to grow and learn from all the things that you've been through and all the things that you're doing and blessing people. And so Laura, we're going to make sure that all of the ways that people can connect with you and all of the different channels are in the show notes so that they can just fall in love with you even more than they have already listening to you today. Is there anything special? If there's anything special out there, we'll make sure to put it in the show notes, guys. And Laura, before we hang up from today, I always ask my guests to give me one coaching question that we can pose to the audience to have them think about to help them move forward from where they are to where they want to be.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So let me be thoughtful with this. So this is actually, I don't know if you call it a coaching question, but this is something that I do give to a lot of my clients that are moving into like new grounds, and it's actually a set of 3. But it's waking up and asking, what do I need today? What does my business need today? What does my family need today? So it's really like whatever your top 3 priorities in your life that you've identified, but always starting with what do I need today, and then listening to that. Because if you want to wake up and you want to have the most incredible day ever, and you want to be able to serve people at your highest, you have to give yourself what you need first.
Yeah.
And so it's a super powerful way to start the day. And I think it'll definitely, if you're not asking that question, I think it'll definitely help reframe your day.
That's brilliant, because my 3 priorities in my day, my big rocks, if we took that example, are God, my business, and my family. But notice that I don't have myself in there. And so I think that that's really powerful. And I thank you for the reminder as well. You guys, thanks for tuning in today. Laura, thank you so much for blessing us. And I cannot wait to continue to get to know you better.
Awesome. Thanks, Lachelle.
Thank you so much for listening to the Untucked podcast. I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. And don't forget to check out the show notes if you want to get into my private club, the Better Club, to be able to learn better ways to be better, do better, and have better. So until next time, keep showing up. Let's get unstuck together. Have a great day.